Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another Football Transfer Forum. We've had a bit of, I've had some technological problems this morning, which is all part of the course. You know, I've just brushed it off. No dramas. You would never know. But I'm here, and I know that everybody thinks that is the main thing. But fear not. We're pretty much on time, and we've got another fabulous 90 minutes of football insight for you. I'll introduce our two special guests very, very shortly. But as always, Football Transfer Forum founder Tony Sharkey is here. Tony, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, Ryan. You had me worried. We've got two pictures of you on the screen at the moment. One's frozen and one's in sort of glorious Technicolor. Yeah, I'm really good, thanks. It was a quiet January transfer window for me. I noticed from our last webinar, Pete O'Rourke, I'll have to give him a big shout out. He was pretty much bang on in terms of telling us which clubs would be active. There was no prizes for guessing. Newcastle United would be one of them, Aston Villa. And then with the manager change at Everton, they came with a last minute swoop. And of course, in the Championship, Middlesbrough, my hometown club, and then Bournemouth were very active as well. And up in Scotland, a sort of a throwback signing, Rangers, when they used to sign Gaza and Terry Butcher and all them, they go and pull off an Aaron Ramsey signing. So it was quite an exciting January window. Obviously, the money was spent in the Premier League. And not much anywhere else, but yeah, quite an exciting January. So I'm back, I'm recharged my batteries. It can be a little bit stressful, but yeah, I'm looking forward to today's webinar.
Very good. I've switched camera, as you've seen. It's seamless. You can also see the plant that I'm slowly killing as well in the background now, which I think adds to the effect. No, you're right. Very, very exciting January windows. Some strange deals as well. We might talk about it later. The Traore deal to Barcelona, quite a strange deal for Wolves. No guarantee sale at the end of it. Don't have him for the remainder of the season. Not really sure what the benefit of that is. So yeah, lots going on, and I totally agree, Tony. That Ramsey deal to Rangers. It was a nostalgic deal, wasn't it? You know, there's a great fact, Tony. I'll drop this fact in straight away. The year Manchester United won the treble, 1999. Yeah, Rangers had a higher wage bill that year than any team in the Premier League.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a good quiz question, isn't it?
It is a good quiz question.
Unbelievable. That's a great piece of knowledge. Thanks for sharing that, Ryan.
Excellent. Thank you. Right, so Tony, as promised, I'm going to introduce our two special guests this morning. The first is Derby County's Joe McClaren. Morning, Joe. How are you?
Morning, Ryan. You okay?
I'm absolutely fine, thank you. We're going to get into it shortly, but obviously there's just been good, the bad, and the ugly around Derby over last year. How are things this morning at Derby County?
Yeah, okay. I think you know, you talked about the transfer window and what transfers have gone through, and I've been watching it with you know, through my fingers really, because we've been unable to do anything. But yeah, it was interesting to watch it all as usual on the last day, and see how the transfer window is changing with COVID, and then coming back a little bit recently. So yeah, all good. I'm glad I've got a better background than you at the moment, but I've moved to the corner of the training ground as far away from anyone as I can, so that no one's putting me off today.
It's an excellent training ground, that though, Joe, isn't it? You know, I remember going back to see it. Well, it was a while ago when it was first being built. It's still a very, very good training ground, that though, isn't it?
Yeah, no, we're really lucky, and it's a great place to come and work. And pitches are still great level, and the academy's close to the first team, and that's really interlocked, and we're merging with them every day. So yeah, really good setup.
Yeah, and for anybody that knows Derby's training ground, it's a proper little rabbit warren as well, isn't it? And there's, you know, I'm sure you're in one of those rooms that had just disappeared off one of the corridors. Great, like Tony says, great academy.
Yeah.
So I guess sort of seamlessly moving on to facilities and great experiences. We'll also introduce Jed Searson, who you've just got back from the Africa Cup of Nations. How was that?
Ryan, it was an experience and a half. That's what I can say. It was
fantastic.
It was great. How are you, Ryan?
I'm very well. I'm very well. We're going to speak to you a little bit later on this morning, but absolutely fascinating to hear from you about perhaps the number of scouts that were over there from Europe, likely talent that was being observed. And Tony, I'm not sure what you think, but I'm really keen to hear off Jed as well, just in terms of the overall organisation and delivery of the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard a few stories from Jed already, but you have to remember Jed went over with the FA of Malawi to help them, and they were the minnows, and they did such an incredible job to get out of the group stage. They were in like the group of death, and you know, Senegal are in the final, aren't they, Jed? Do you know what I mean?
We pushed Senegal right to that was the game we had to get a result in to qualify. We held them to a draw. A goalkeeper got man of the match. We sort of tried to sort of snuff the game out, but also we had a penalty turned down with 8 minutes to go through VAR, which another crazy decision that we could have actually won the group.
That would have been fantastic, wouldn't it?
It was 8 minutes from winning the group, so that's unbelievable. So yeah, but no, it was a great experience. And obviously,
Jed, I'm loving how you're using the word "we." Like we're all Malawi, aren't we?
You know what? I tell you what, even I'm known as by my family now as Malawi Jed. So
I like it. Malawi Jed.
But yeah, it's amazing how half of East London became Malawians. So it was it was a great experience, and so I'll tell you guys about it later on. It'd be good hours for you.
Yeah, well, the tournament's obviously entering the latter stages now, so it's going to obviously be interesting to see how that concludes. A bit of housekeeping before we start. We've got plenty of people on the webinar this morning, which is brilliant. I really do encourage you to share your social profiles, your LinkedIn address, your Twitter addresses. Tony and myself, I'm sure the guys will do the same as well, to generate a bit of networking there as well. If you have any questions, and we definitely do want your questions into Joe and Jed this morning, then please pop those into the Q&A box. But certainly, as I say, in the chat box, your LinkedIn address, Twitter address, where you're tuning in from. That's always interesting for us to see. A couple of Egypt fans on there already, Jed. So hold it back. You're cool. Feel free to network and ask questions as we go. Okay, let's get into it with Joe. Joe, first of all, thanks for being with us this morning. Really do appreciate your time. And as I said before, it's been such a difficult but interesting time to observe Derby County over what's really been the last couple of years. I don't know what you think. I think almost like the tide has turned a little bit over the past couple of weeks in terms of public and media perception towards the club. Seems to be a huge crowd the other day at the ground as well. You get that feeling that actually the prospect of new owners, the team doing okay, the tide has turned a little bit?
Yeah, I think, we've always had that within the club, and we knew it's there. It's a shame that this had to happen to bring out so many positives. But it's a really weird feeling, because this is probably, one of the most exciting and positive seasons we've had, and I know fans have said the same. And just before the Birmingham game at the weekend, the goals were up on the big screen, and you really goosebump moments already, which is crazy on there. And obviously the crowd full, the 10,000 walk into the stadium. Even someone that's lived in Derby a long time to see that was it was really quite emotional. And so it's brought so many positive things, but yeah, always in the pit of your stomach and the back of your mind is what really is going on. So yeah, hopefully we're really hopeful that things are sorted, and then it'll be the only way is up from that point.
Good. Well, here this morning to talk about your journey, what you're doing from a head of recruitment perspective. I think I'd like to start just, I guess, for the guys tuning in this morning in terms of what your career path has been. Because you've worked in multiple territories across different roles, really interesting. So, could you just sort of squash that into a couple of minutes for us?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think it's interesting. It started from such a young age with having my dad, Steve McClaren, obviously in the game, and started as a player. And as that, he learned as a family, you got to move around, don't buy fitted carpets, all that stuff. And I was actually born in Derby, so I've got a real connection with the club. But so we moved around, and from an early age, I was watching, going to the games, going with my mum, watching my dad playing, and they kind of, they said from an early age you were transfixed really on watching the football, while the others were, smashing balloons around or throwing things. It was, you were just watching the game. So I think it all started from then in a funny way, and then just being inside football, on half terms, holidays, going into the training grounds with dad to watch training, to watch the way that football works, to learn how to be around people, when to say something, when not to say something. I think are really important things, and it all kicked on from that. And I knew then, if I could, it'd be great to have a career in the football. And it was just at a great time of performance analysis really taking its toll, and then the big break I had really was with video scouting coming into the game. So I was on an internship at Nottingham Forest when my dad was there, and we were doing the performance analysis. He left there, and I did too, and then he got the job at FC Twente over in Holland for the second time, and I went over there just to see what they were doing. They were saying that they were interested in what I was doing, and video scouting was something that they weren't doing, and they were doing simple things of recording off satellite dish and having to pre-plan which games they record, and the clips they were doing were all on DVD and things like that. And I came over with what we know as Y-Scout and said, look, this is a new platform. This is what I can do with it. And we transformed it really, from watching all the, so many more games, clipping so many more clips for the coaches and the manager, for doing better scout meetings. It was a real good time then. So 1 year, Dad was there, he went back, and the club said, no, we want you to stay if you want to. So that was brilliant for me. I've always known that I have to show that you're your own man in this environment. And so that was a big moment really to stay for another year. And yeah, it was a great time. We'll speak maybe more about the Holland experience, but that was a brilliant time for me. Then back to Derby, then got the opportunity to focus on emerging talent, which has become such a huge thing across all Premier League and top Championship clubs. So emerging talent was a focus. Did that for a year and a half. Then Southampton for a year and a half there as well, doing the similar thing, leading the emerging talent across the UK. And that was an amazing experience with the late Bill Green and Ross Wilson. Yeah, right. To learn off both of them was amazing. I think, and the club as well, I learned a lot with the way that Southampton was run. Was really a really close-knit family setup, but really developmental. They wanted the staff to improve, and they ran it like a business, which was really interesting to see. Ross was brilliant in terms of showing what a sporting director can bring to an environment, and Bill was great for scouting experience. So that was a great time, and then back to Derby as chief scout, and later developed to head of recruitment. And it's been 5 years, 5 managers. It's been a whirlwind, but yeah, can't change it. Brilliant.
Just a really interesting comment that I want to ask you on there before we move on to the next one. You said, in those sort of formative years when you were going in, you learn when to say something and when not to say something. And I think it's such an important statement. I think for a lot of young people getting into the game or wanting to get into the game, but it's something I talk about is I think people that are established working in the game, they can suss out, I would say, within the first minute or a couple of minutes whether or not you're going to be able to have a proper football conversation with somebody. But also, you're right, aren't you? In terms of there is a protocol in terms of when you do say something and when the time is. How, other than that organic experience of that, how would you define that now, or what advice would you give in terms of people coming in and operating?
It's a huge side of things, and I think it's a real balance, because what I always say is you have to be true to yourself and be yourself, and it's 24/7 the football world, and being at the training ground, and you're never ever going to cover up what you are and who you are, but the other side of it is you really do have to have that empathy for people in all the different roles, what they're going through, what they're trying to achieve. I think it's an emotional environment as well, so it's not taking things too personally and seriously at times, because that can really really upset you. But it's also 100% wouldn't say don't be scared to have an opinion, because people do love to discuss it and make people think, but it's doing it in the right way. It's making the opinion knowing what the other person might be going through or thinking. I call it kind of you've got to have enthusiasm, but a controlled enthusiasm, I think is really important to it, and adding value. You have to you have to add value and show that there's something that you could bring. And I think you'll know the trust is a massive aspect, and it's difficult when everybody's moving around and going different places, but that honesty and trust is such a key thing. And then the big word really that marks it all is consistency. I think if you be consistent with your actions and what you do, people respect that. So yeah, it's a real mix of understanding your situation and having that controlled enthusiasm, but don't let it hold you back in terms of having an effect as well.
Brilliant.
Joe, can I just jump in there, Ryan? Joe, obviously you've been to clubs in England and you know what it's like working in England, but just focus on the Holland experience for us a little bit. How did that differ, and how did you find that?
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. I mean, you tell everybody to get out of the comfort zones, and Dad has always said to stretch that circle, keep pushing outside the comfort zone. And it was a no-brainer to go out there. And you're lucky that everybody speaks English and everybody wants to likes that someone's different there. But at the same time, they are very opinionated, and they've got their way of playing. You've got to adapt to what they're doing. The league's completely different. So I think in terms of a player aspect, the differences were a lot more focused on attacking players. Technical and tactical were a massive part of that, whereas in England, a little bit more physical and mental was a bigger part to play. The tactical side of it was amazing with the younger players, the knowledge that they had. If another team was changing to 4-4-2 from 4-3-3, what do we do? They were so well drilled into things like that. But then on an organisational platform as well, it was my first experience of seeing the technical director approach and sport director approach, which was great to see, and it was accepted and respected in Europe, and slowly making its way to us. And I'm not saying that's the right setup for any club, but if you all buy into it and understand what it is, it can be really, really effective, as we're seeing now at a few clubs. But the way that worked in Holland was that they understood and they accepted that they were a selling team and a selling league, and as long as you don't see that as a negative, you can plan for it and be ready for it. You can buy talent because people understand that they've got to start again, and we did that a lot of times while I was over there, especially in the first period that Dad was there. And we lost people like Tadic, Chadley. You were always replacing two wingers nearly every season, which were shown off a lot in Holland. So that side of things was really interesting to see. Succession planning and being ready to replace and go again.
So that really give you a sort of heads up on that sort of sporting director model and how a selling club could work, and you know, and a lot of clubs now in England have got obviously sporting directors, and there's many clubs have been forced to become selling clubs.
Yeah, 100%. And I think the biggest thing is having a club that knows what they are and knows what they want to achieve, and I think that's the most important starting point, because there's so many variables and so much emotion involved in the game. You've got to try and simplify it as much as you can, and you know you're going to stray from that at times with what happens during a season and over the years with manager changes, things like that. But no, I think it was working there because everybody understood it and bought into it. I think it's easiest for us just to throw in technical directors into some clubs in England now, thinking it's going to work, but no, it's got to be something that's well thought out.
Yeah. I worked at Holland myself very briefly, and you're right. The culture is something that took me by surprise a little bit, as you say, that they're quite brutal towards each other without offence, and that's how did you adapt to that?
Yeah, on a personal level as well, you know, I took, you know, effort to learn the language and to, you know, I didn't want to be sitting in them scouting meetings and they were having to, you know, speak English. Some older guys in there, you could see, you know, it was a struggle. And I think, you know, my experience of being around people, you can start to smell that. And you know, I don't want to be the person that's causing that. So, you know, you know, flipping that to was important, because you knew that they respected that you were trying with that. But yeah, it's a brutal language. I always say, with, you know, even my mum, when she was going over there in the shops and things, you know, it just felt that they weren't being rude, but it does feel like that at times. And I think there's not really the words for please and things like that, which we maybe overuse a little bit. And I think it was getting used to that from a personal point of view was like that. And then add the emotion of football on top of that, then wow, like you say, what you've picked up is a real stubbornness and a real opinion that's there. So that was a great learning curve as well, to kind of adapt to that and still make your point.
So Joe, now obviously working back in England, are you an expert still on Holland? Do you still really have a good look at that league? We all know that there's some very, very good players there. Are you sort of still focusing a little bit because of that sort of experience on Holland? Yeah,
no, definitely. I think you've got to keep in there. But what I would say is, and we all know from watching football, so when you're immersed in it and you come out of it, it's you really do lose a lot of the knowledge there. And it's changed as well with the targets that we've had. You know, we've maybe come away from having when we had Philip Cocu come in, and then we increased it again, and we knew a lot again. But you got to adapt to where your club is at the time and what your manager, you know, is most likely to want, and also respecting that. I mean, I maybe knew more than anyone that the Dutch players maybe weren't suited as much to coming over to the Championship. Right. And I think England as a whole, you know, the players over there, I've seen it a lot of times. They get so many opportunities and chances because it's such an attacking league, an open league, possession based. You get loads of touches of the ball. They're used to that level of playing, and I think when you come to England and learn that you're probably only going to touch it for a second before someone's on you, or you're only going to get one chance a game, or it's that building of confidence that they get from doing that. You know, you've seen players come to the top levels of England and struggle for it, because we all know it's a confidence game, and the confidence that they used to have, you know, maybe a bad month for PSV, but you'd still come out of it with 3 assists and a goal, and you knew you'd be going home and watching yourself on you know, their match of the day, and that breeds confidence, and it's a really tough switch to come over here and other countries. So yeah, with all that in mind, definitely kept a knowledge and keep watching it. So I appreciate what they're doing, but I think with Brexit as well, you know, it's actually one of the countries that's quite achievable for everyone. So I think it'll be cranked up again, the knowledge of that in the next couple of years.
Yeah. They're just not polite enough to come over here. Is the real reason. But yeah, it's been really interesting to see what's happened in Dutch football. National team struggled really over the last few years as well. I mean, Tony, how do you see Dutch football in terms of players for England? Do you see it coming back again, or?
Listen, it's always going to be there, isn't it? It's such a good developmental league, as Joe pointed out, and the big clubs are always going to be involved in European competition. That gets them into the GBE calculator system. I'm not 100% sure which band Holland's in on the GBE stuff. Somebody else.
The second one, yeah.
Is it the band 2, isn't it? So
yeah,
if you're in a lower club in Holland, you might not get the GBE points. But obviously the top clubs who are playing in European competition, and they are buying some of the big players to develop and then to sell on. I see it as an absolute, it's an essential league if you want to scout foreign players. Holland's one of the go-to leagues for me. I was interested that you've been to Southampton as well, because they've always been very keen on bringing players in from the Dutch league. And obviously you've learnt your trade, if I can put it that way, under Ross Wilson, who's now up at Rangers. So just tell us a little bit about the Southampton experience as well, Joe. Yeah,
it was a brilliant time. You knew when you got there you were somewhere different, and just simple things like a CPDs for the staff, and but for the whole staff, you get the ground staff in with your catering and doing the same types of things, bringing everybody together. That was really good, and the way that the staff, you could feel there was a developmental thing there. Everyone, the staff were promoted through, but they weren't scared to bring in staff from outside as well, and develop them within their structure. So from a club point of view, it was really good, and it was at a time as well where there was a lot of pressure on the club, because you know what it's like, with success brings expectation, and they'd signed a lot of, the money that they made from the academy and the signings was just unbelievable at the time. So yeah, interesting to try and carry that through. And then, like you said, the people there was a brilliant time. Late Bill Green was an unbelievable mentor to have at the time. I mean, the man never stopped traveling and going to games. But when we talk about having personality for the game, and his probably was the most spot on you can get in terms of that humbleness and respect that he would have, and the listening that he did to everybody. But when the time was right, boom, he came in with what he was going to say, and you listened. And so that was a brilliant side of things. And then with Ross, the organisational side was brilliant. With meetings were not just for the sake of it. Meetings had a result, and they had an end product to them, and you talked about them in the next one. You were tested and you were responsible. But it was measurable responsibility, which is massive. So yeah, as a whole, it was brilliant experience.
And Joe, the club's obviously been bought out now, and it's under new ownership. Rasmus Ankersen is going to be the CEO, who was a sporting director of Brentford and FC Midtjylland. That's going to be good. That's for me, it's a very shrewd move by the businessman who took the club, because Southampton for me is one of those selling clubs, if I can use that. They're bringing players into the Premier League. They're not in the top six. They're probably mid-division if you look at. I don't know where they are in the table today, but over time, and they're then looking to sell their assets to the top 5 or 6 clubs in England and some of the bigger clubs in Europe, aren't there? So how do you see that? I mean, I think it's a positive. What do you think?
Yeah, but what's difficult for clubs like that is the forward planning has got to be great, because what you're actually doing is, you say Mane, for example, you're selling Mane at 40 odd million pounds, but what you're selling is an unbelievable player at that point. So the replacement that you're bringing in at the same time, is probably, you're not going to pay the same. You're going to pay less, and that player then has to get up to speed to actually reach the level of what Mane was at the end of his time, and that's the most difficult thing. So look, ideally in a club, you'd love to have someone in a little bit like Leicester have done with Daka, and having him in the building early doors and blooding him in as he goes through. I'm sure when his time is to be a regular player, he's going to be great for them, and they won't notice that maybe they have to sell someone, or someone's moved on. And so that's the ideal scenario. Obviously, we know how difficult that that is to do, is to predicting it and to getting someone in before you brought revenue in. But yeah, that's kind of your overall goal. But no, it will be interesting watching how they develop now, because it'd be interesting whether they go for the multi-club aspect as well, which we're seeing at a few clubs, and clubs are using that to quite good effect in terms of loaning out players and sharing knowledge with other clubs. So yeah, really interesting to watch how they get on now.
Yeah, I'm a Wolves fan, Joe, and yeah, I think I need to also become a Grasshoppers season ticket holder, because most of our players are actually at Grasshoppers now. I think we've got more players at Grasshoppers than what they have in Wolverhampton. Yeah. So I know it's really interesting. We want to speak about resilience, and you know, that's a virtue that I imagine is critical at Derby at the moment. So, you know, what are your thoughts around the topic, and how does it manifest in terms of actions?
No, it's such a huge thing in football. I think I said to you early on in this, it's the fitted carpets one. I think I've been lucky to kind of. I'll be honest with you. My personality really, you wouldn't attribute that to that thick skin and those things. I think I've really developed that through environmental stuff and being in the game from an early age, and seeing that my dad get in the sack and moving house and change, thinking this is great, what's going on, and the next minute 3 games and our life changed again. So I've kind of gained that, I think, from a young age and understanding it, and I've got a little bit of a weird acceptance of it, which I think gives me a little bit of more focus on just all you can do is control the controllables and what you're doing. So yeah, that life, especially with the England manager stuff, was an unbelievable time. So many positives in terms of that period. I was going to Saturday, Sundays, Premier League games, 12 o'clock, 5:30, tagging along with my dad, which on one side was unbelievable. The next side with the lines of cars parked outside your house and with the press vans and kind of the feeling that you were wanted to fail a little bit. I think it's not me saying something out of turn. I think it's something that a lot of people have felt in that situation. And then obviously the big game, Croatia, where I'd be open to say I was cowering away in a concourse, trying to just hope that it would go well.
Joe, did you manage to fit in any school in between matches?
It doesn't sound like I've done any of this. I've squeezed in 3 years sports science and school and a year teaching as well. So I don't know where it's all.
But Joe, I think it's a really important point. Numbers on the webinar this morning, people working in the game, and I think there is a public perception, and you'll have it yourself from friends that you have that don't work in football, that think working in football is a joyous experience day in, day out. The reality is that it's extremely brutal, and I think really, as you touched on, the fragility of people's positions. It's not just the manager and player that have got fragility around it. It's all of the staff these days, and I know the EPPP and everything like that was designed to try and give some continuity. But in terms of, if you look at turnover, that's not really happened. So resilience is absolutely critical. How do you measure what you would say is the overall resilience of staff and operators in the game? Do you think people allow those pressures into them too much generally?
Yeah, and you can't help it, because it's a daft example of like when I go home and my next door neighbour's got their door number's a Derby County plaque, and you come home and you feel guilty walking past them at times, and they're, what happened last week, what was that type of thing, and it's that constant reminder and feeling, that you feel just as emotional about it as everybody else. So really tough to work in the industry. But I'd say, what I've kind of learned and what my personality has maybe helped with, because I've been through 5 managers in 5 years here, and every one of them was a difficult change, and learning how to adapt to different people coming in, how to approach this situation. So that was the thing. But I think patience is such a massive thing. All you can do is keep doing the right things. Like I said before, being true to yourself and just be you and keep doing what you're doing. I think you got to find something that you do well and make it a consistent. What can we do? So for my job, what can I do consistently that when the changes of football happen, there won't be too much effect. So for me personally, that's been within our department, has been information gathering is something that we could do anytime, that any manager will want, any club will want. So information gathering is a massive thing that I've focused on, and that can be through scouting games, video games, the start space stuff, and importantly the agents stuff, and understanding the market, making sure you got a massive knowledge of the area that you work in. I think if you can do those things consistently well and to a high level, then that keeps you going. It gives you the boost when changes happen, that you've got something there that you fall back on, and then the flexibility then to adapt to the next new situation, and understanding that. So, and the most important thing I've got to add to all of it is really try and see it as a positive and learn from them. I think we're learning a massive amount from being in administration and how that's changed us, but how we've used it as a positive, and we've got to take what we've done. And I mean, Wayne's created an unbelievable environment here as a manager, and he's used every negative, everything to a positive effect with the team. I mean, we've had so many Fridays this season where we've had bad news, and I've got to say we've had positive results after every one. So, and it's credit to him and the staff and the academy that have been a help with players and getting those boys ready for the resilience as well.
Ryan's just frozen there, but what I wanted to go on to, Joe, next, and actually we'll give a shout out to your brother Josh, because he's doing sports psychology, isn't he?
Yeah.
And in clubs, some clubs do have a sports psychologist to help the players. I'm wondering whether there's many sports psychologists in clubs who are looking after not just the players, but the managers, the coaches, the staff, who are feeling, because it's this resilience doesn't just come overnight. It's a sort of learned thing, and it's a mental thing, and to keep yourself positive is sometimes it's difficult, isn't it? So what do you think about sports psychologists? Is there one at Derby or other clubs you've been at?
Yeah. No, we have, and it's an important side of the academy, but also the first team, and they're all used in different ways. You can you be coaching the coaches, working with the players. I think it depends on the person, but other than that as well, I think it's important that everyone. I've just been I'm on the FA level 4 talent ID at the moment, and we were just speaking about it yesterday, and it was great. We were talking about critical friends and how important that is to you've got to have a group around you, whether it's it's the wife or your father, your parents, or friends. You've got to be at an event and get it out and talk through things. I think that's become a massive part of it, and as you say, the psychologist has got to be aware of what could be coming and maybe dip in ahead of those things, and hopefully having it's needed in the academy as a given that you have to have the psychologist there, and hopefully they are helping these lads get ready for what's about to come.
I've had an idea. What you need is a Dutch wife. That's what you need. Uber critical.
Ryan, you my critical friend.
I'm not Dutch. I just wanted to pin down on something you said there. I always think it's really interesting to observe and analyse the performance of teams that are either under embargo or in administration. I think it really does shine a light on sometimes the inefficiency of transfers, because you guys have been yourselves, and I would also say like Hull have been under restrictions. If you take away the points deductions that you guys have had, well, you'd be doing fine in terms of relegation and everything like that. It brings me back to the question of how efficient do you see the transfer market, and Is there an argument for doing less in the transfer market if clubs like yourselves and Hull that are effectively having to work with free agents, and you're still recruiting, you're still having to go through the process of seeing, but you're not buying. How do you see that efficiency of being able to buy? Is that a better model?
Yeah, I think exactly what you thought it would be is what it is. But you almost have to go through it to force yourself into it, and that's what we spoke about before with football, with the emotions around it and the demands of it. And there's an owner under pressure that maybe wants to please the fans. There's a manager under pressure that wants to get through the next 6 months, and it's so there's so many factors that force. I always remember the one on the Sunderland documentary on Netflix, and the Will Grigg signing, and it was. I mean, it was just brilliant to see it, because it's everything but it was, the scouts are saying don't do it, the manager's saying don't do it, and the owner just wants to have that 5 minutes of at least I've done something for the fans, and the detriment. It's not just now that the effect is there. When they're on longer contracts and you can't get them move them on, then that takes up positions of other signings in the future, and it's such a there's a lot down effect. I think the main thing you can take out of it in watching those clubs that we spoke about is that you can do it with budgets, but you've got to know what you're working with, and I've got to say I have enjoyed that we've known what we've got to work with, and you can make better choices for the team. There's no secret that when you throw a luxury of choice the manager's way, then his instinct is always going to be to take the more expensive option, and that's the way it is. And I think we've been able to it just zeroed us in and focused on what we had to achieve, and that helped. So we've learned a lot from it, that's for sure.
Let's just get through a couple of questions from people tuning in before we move on. So Tobias has got a question, Joe. He said, Joe, how do you see the pressure on young players in academies? Do you also see that the pressure is increasing because the players are being screened more and more? They can't afford any weaknesses or they'll be traded. Will this pressure increase, and what will it do to these players? Well, just to supplement that question, you're obviously still a Cat 1 academy at Derby. Investment into the academy on a regular basis. Is it a pressure cooker for those lads in the academy there?
Yeah, it really is, and there's so many ups and downs within it. I mean, we've seen over the years that lads will get a chance to train with the first team one day, and for 6 weeks you might not go near it again. And there's all these little challenges within a player's academy career that they have to cope with and get through. And if the most ones that get through that are going to have success later on when they have the same problems. But yeah, with social media and the Sky Sports News rolling on, it's such a pressure cooker for the young lads to deal with, and they've got to play younger now. And we've asked a lot of the academy players here, and I think testament to the way that Darren and Wassell here has worked with the academy and the staff within it. The boys have been resilient to come up and cope with the pressures of trying to keep Derby in the league. So it's there's no right or wrong answers to it. I think it works out a lot of players whether they want to do it or not. But it's hard for them to the ups and downs of it. There's so many decisions every day if they're in full time to get through.
Joe, how many graduate debuts have you had this season?
Oh wow, I can't even count. I mean,
off the top of your head.
I'm trying to think what we've put in, because there's been that many that have been on the bench for us as well. It's got to be 10 plus that of this season. Wow. But usually you'd be saying one sneaked on in the FA Cup type of thing. But this is actually seriously helping the team this has happened. I mean, Liam Thompson has made himself a regular now in centre midfield. Plange, who took the interest of Crystal Palace in the end on the last day, as you saw, has played up front for us. So it's they've really took it on and not just supplemented, but actually affected the team. And we've seen the academy players that have been here, like Max Bird, grow up with it and become a leader. So it's been great for that. That's for sure.
So at the same time, you know, you're a Cat 1 academy. There's got to be an expectation to produce some players for the first team as well. Otherwise, what's the point? Knock it on the head.
Yeah, 100%. And that's the hardest part of football, is trying to find that pathway to, you know, from results to getting these through. And I think we've shown that there is a way of doing it, as long as the environment's right and everyone accepts it. That's part of what you've got to do. The environment's got to be right, with the pressure on the player when he's coming in as well, and understanding what he's got to do. And it's it's like you say, as Cat 1, there's a lot of money going into it, and I believe, you know, it's been an unbelievable success over the years. And not only if they're not coming through your own clubs, that they're having careers elsewhere in the game. That's probably the most important.
Final question from one of the audiences. Anne asks, and it's a nice segue from the last section actually. Oh, how do you manage to cool down the pressure of the level of expectancy and the impatience of achieving instant success? It's a good question, because it's very difficult, isn't it? You know, people have got their external sort of social values where, you know, this instant success is part of everybody's mantra. You know, how are you dealing with that, and how does the club deal with that?
It's really tough, because you know, every signing you want to maybe just get them in the back door and maybe not talk about it. It's like you talked about the Ramsey one, in terms of, there he is, pictures, how much he earned at Juventus and what he might be earning here, and all those things, and all the noise is a real this deflection away from what it is. So expectations is huge, and to be honest, I don't think you can calm it down. You know, the fans are excited. You've got to be winning the next day on the field. I think, like I said to you there, with clubs, that if they can possibly do it where you're buying in, or you've got an academy product underneath that you think is going to be is going to be replacing people at the right time, and you can just blood them in gently, that is always the best approach. But yeah, expectations is such a hard thing with the social media stuff now. The Sky Sports coverage on the the transfers, the social media. The club, after they've paid a lot of money, the clubs to sign these players, so they've got to do these, you know, great TikTok videos and things like this now to promote the guys. But you know, with it, I'm watching closely. Can't wait to see Coutinho come off the bench for Villa's first game, and if he has a bad game in that one, is it you know, it really is detrimental.
You know, you're right. These intros, they're like movie trailers, aren't they? And actually, they build the player up. You know, I've seen like the Van der Beek one at Everton, and it's like, you know, the transfer fees X and 10%'s been spent on the TikTok video. You know, it's absolutely outrageous. And it is really counterproductive, I see it as, in terms of elevating and, like, you know, glorifying and Hollywoodifying these players, and then you're away at Millwall on Tuesday night, all the best, you know. So it's
you've got to put yourself in the dressing room as well, and picture what it's like for that player walking in on that day, and everyone just looks to the door and goes, wow, you better be good. And it's a really tough, that first training session as well. I always, when we've had a side, I'm a little bit nervous when they come in that first day, and it's like, you know, I was like, and you just you know, it's the first training session can kill everything. I think it's a major one for loan players as well, in terms of like trying to integrate themselves. Everybody knows that they can easily just go back to the club. The player knows I'm going to go back to a club. It's we've seen that a lot, where it's a loan player's introduction is really important as well. And yeah, literally as mad as it is, the first day, the first training session can be so important. Even just a daft thing of cracking a joke at the right time, or just showing your personality in the right way, just to get that buy-in from everybody that they want you to do well.
Fantastic. Final question before we wrap up. how do you see the future of recruitment over the next 4 or 5 years? Do you see overall less purchases from clubs and more free transfers? You feel that the role of data has kind of reached a crescendo, or do you think there's further places to go? What's your overall methodology on how recruitment will go over the next 4 or 5 years?
I think there's a lot to come, and there's nothing's going to change the fact that we're going to be buying and selling and loaning and all those things. I think it's just how we're going to, and the actual scouting of players in terms of video and live scouting. Nothing's going to change with that. I think all we're going to do is supplement it with more things going forward, and that can range from, like you said, the data stuff. I think the AI stuff is going to be really interesting, and integrating. You can have certain positional profiles and data that says, this player suited to your team and could fit in quite nicely. You're going to have the GPS stuff. I think is going to become massively important. We need to find a way of measuring that with and using that as a scouting platform to give an idea on speed, physicality, and how someone can run in the game. I think the way that teams are playing now, and I know the Premier League's totally shifting to counter pressing and running behind and how far you run, and we're like that in the Championship. So that's going to be an important thing. And then structures is going to be important. We touched on it with how these, the clubs are going to be run now. I think there's going to be development on how we do that, and learning how to have the right structures within clubs that get the best from everybody. So yeah, I think there's a lot to come within structures, within data. And yes, but scouting will remain the same. We need to have as much knowledge as we can. There's still going to be lots of players moving. Brexit is we're going to have to adapt to that. I think the Premier League clubs especially are now cranking up the South American bits. They're buying players early and loaning them out. It's going to be everybody adapting to that. And then what's happened with the youth scouting is so interesting for the Brexit. So we can say ourselves we've sold a few players in the last couple of years, and the prices are going up because of the young ones can't go abroad now. And I think that'll be great, because that's going to increase the level of the English players that are then going to go into the Championship and the lower league. So I feel a real shift from first time loans. I think we're starting to be a lot more open to, whereas before we were very much like, need to see them out somewhere first. I think now now we're having to take that punt. So yeah, there's loads to come from that as well.
Brilliant. Well, it's been great having you on this morning. But as I said right at the top, I feel there's been a bit of a shift the last couple of weeks, and everybody's kind of trying to get behind Derby now. Unless you're a Middlesbrough fan. So I want to say good luck for the rest of the season. I think it'd be great if Derby stayed up. I think it'd be many reasons, not just for the work that yourself and Wayne are doing, but for all of those young lads that have gone on and made a difference in the Championship this year. I think what a great thing for them to achieve. And there's plenty having a wobble down there, Tony, isn't there? There's plenty having a wobble. What do you think, Tony?
Absolutely.
Are Derby staying up, Tony?
I don't want to answer that. I think the purchase of Hull and their last minute transfer embargo being lifted, a couple of deals, I think Hull are out of it now. So I don't know whether there's anybody else who's going to drop in there. That's the only problem. But
Brilliant.
Listen, Joe, thanks. That was excellent. Really enjoyed it. Thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it, guys. Cheers.
Cheers, Joe. Excellent.
Thanks a lot.
Well, there was absolutely loads there, so I hope everybody enjoyed that. Now let's bring back in Jed. Jed, any thoughts on what you just heard there before we crack on with the other stuff?
I was enjoying that. We can keep Joe on. It's more interesting than what I'm coming up with, so I was actually quite enjing that. No, it's really interesting that was.
Good. Stuff. So Jed, we're really interested to hear about your experience over the last couple of weeks. We don't need to go over the known talent of that what Africa produces. The top talent in the Premier League in recent years has been dominated by African talent. Mane, Salah, to name just a few. So tell us, are there players of that caliber that we're going to be seeing in the Premier League in the years to come?
There will be. There's players coming through all the time, and there's been a few other names that have sort of hit the headlines from the tournament now as well. But there also is the teams that you mentioned now. A lot of these guys are already playing their trade in Europe.
Yeah.
I mean, Tony and Ryan. I mean, when we was looking at, obviously with the Malawi national team, when we were looking at our opponents coming up, and you just start looking at the names and actually the clubs. I mean, when we looked at the Guinea team as our first opponent, and already you think, wow, there's some big clubs there. And then when we played Senegal, it was an unbelievable list of clubs. It was quite frightening when you start in. Well, you imagine putting a video assessment together, doing a team meeting with the players, saying this player's the weak link, and then you realise he's cost £70 million. And that's something when you're trying to instill that into the players, saying, look, we can get him, and they're like, he's playing for PSG and he's on 70 million.
But Jed, it is fragmented in Africa, isn't it? Because there's some very small nations that have not only qualified for the tournament, they've done very, very well, and they don't have the same. I mean, I'm presuming that those nations don't have the same structures into Europe. The European clubs aren't in some of those countries as they are the others. So. Yeah. Is this a massive opportunity that some of us are missing?
It is. I mean, Malawi ourselves. I mean, I'm officially, for visa purposes, I was the data analyst, but my real title I was chief scout. And looking at the background, that's just.
Yeah. I don't think the Home Office are on the call
today. But our players were basically domestic players. Playing their own domestic league. We had our one, star player, which obviously I think you guys know, Gabba was our main. It was scored 3 goals, and if you saw the game against Morocco, I think they've said it was the goal, not only goal of the tournament, but goal of all tournaments. He scored from 45 yards to the top corner.
Great goal.
It was unbelievable. Yes, imagine we was 8 minutes into the game or 6 minutes in, we think, wow, we're cooking already. It unfortunately didn't continue that way. But there is, I mean, our team was basically really domestic players playing in the domestic league. We've got a few guys. Gabba's obviously playing in South Africa. We've got a few boys that are in Tanzania and South Africa. There's a few playing in sort of lower levels in Europe, in sort of Moldova and Georgia. But for us to go in and go head to head with these teams, with these massive world stars, we massively overachieved. I mean, I know we had a discussion with Tony the other day, and I'm competitive, and I'm actually upset that we lost to Morocco in the last 16, even though they've gone 30 games unbeaten. There's me wanting to beat them, and things didn't quite work as it should have done. But I was saying to Tony, and I said, look, I'm a little bit downhearted. And Tony, what did you say to me? He said, you guys have achieved something massive that never been done before. We made history, but never got out of the last 16 and never got out of the group stages.
Yeah, you had the group of death, Jed, really, and just to get out of that group, and obviously I thought Morocco would go on and win it, to be honest, because they're such a strong and powerful team, and they've got so many good players, but you give them a right scare, didn't you? So
we did.
Could have been 2-0 up. That goal, the wonder goal, and then he had a chance straight after.
We had a game plan, and we didn't stick to it, and that was slightly frustrating, and I was a bit angry and upset. But it was hard to go in. I wouldn't go into the change room after the game because I was really angry, but it was wrong because these guys had achieved massively. And they were totally, the president was in there, everyone was just totally over the moon of how they've achieved. And no one expected that. And I didn't want to dampen that.
Jed, tell us, I mean, obviously, you've scouted in England, you've worked in other places as well, but this was a new experience for you, wasn't it, working for the national team?
Yeah, and
just tell us a little bit about how scouting and how your role and what you had to do for the National Association and the team and the manager, how that was different, and how how it went.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'd scouted in the Premier League or West Ham. I've been a chief scout in the Football League, but this was a bit different. So I actually put a scout team together. So it wasn't just me. I had 16 scouts working with me.
Wow.
These were guys that also Mr. Patton, David, that you know well.
Yeah.
From Squad Plus, he was involved with me. Some of the guys that worked with me at Orient at West Ham, they were with me. But also I had guys from all over the world from the workshops, my scouting workshops, S4 scouting workshops, they came on board. So we had a mission to do. So basically, we knew our 3 opponents. I had about a month to get there. I was there for 4 weeks before the tournament started. So I was putting things together. And so through video scouting, that's what Joe was talking about beforehand, we knew every single player that we was going to be facing. So we had individual reports on every single player. We had team assessments on every opponent. So that was all their World Cup qualifiers and AFCON qualifiers. So we knew everything about these teams. So we were real in depth. Anyone came through, and the poor lads, some lads had done reports on players that didn't even get into the squad. So that was hard going. And then topped with that, when the tournament started, then I was doing live scouting. So I was going to games, watching our opponents live. Luckily, it was all in the same stadium, so the games were all doubled up. So we could see our next opponents, say, at 2 o'clock game, and then we played at 5 o'clock. So I was doing the live scouting and then going straight into the change room to deal with our lads after that. So that was a different experience. I mean, not many scouts get that chance to actually go and watch your opponents and then go and actually be involved in your own team straight away afterwards. And as I mentioned to you the other day, Tony, I must be the first scout ever to go to a game with his own armed soldier as his bodyguard. So that was crazy, going to watch a few of the other nations play as well. So I had my own para with me, with his AK-47, walking around up to the stadium. And then even funnier, walking around the shop after, buying bottles of Coke and chocolate for the rest of the staff with a soldier with you.
Yeah, did you not have that at Leighton Orient?
Not quite, not quite. When I went down to Millwall for a couple of games,
Yeah, I was going to
You would
say,
have been handy at Millwall back in the day,
yeah.
long time ago.
Jed, I wanted to ask, what was? I know we've had COVID. I know COVID's still a big thing in Africa as well, but getting better, thankfully. Were there many European scouts at the tournament?
I can actually say I actually saw one scout at a game.
Wow.
I was one of the games as a French scout, and I could see a scout can spot another scout, and spot agents as well. And he was going, you must be the only person here. And I put a post on first game I went to see, and on LinkedIn I put a post on there, and it had 17,000 views on there. So I presume I was one of the only guys there. Maybe there is other guys there. I don't know. But from European-based clubs, European-based, it was just maybe different things. COVID was a massive issue. Logistically, getting to Cameroon is not the easiest. The cost as well. You can imagine anywhere where Olympics football, wherever a tournament is, all the prices go up as well. It's not an easy place to visit. As well, so that was hard. So I presume, Tony, would you say the same? There's probably a lot of video scouting. I would have guessed would have gone on, Ryan.
I should imagine all of the clubs will have been following the African Cup of Nations, and it'll be heavily scouted, won't it? So I think, all the logistics of getting there and who's going and the preparation that you've got to do to send a scout over there, and also the security. What was the security like in Cameroon, Jed?
Fantastic. I mean, to be honest, being in Malawi, first of all, I spent 2 weeks in Malawi, 10 days in Saudi Arabia as a second training camp, and then on to Cameroon as well. And literally lovely people wherever we went. It was absolutely fantastic. The Cameroonians as well, absolutely fantastic. But you can imagine our security was unbelievable. We had to share a hotel with Zimbabwe, which is funny. So you've got us on one half of the hotel, they're on the other half side of the hotel, and we're rivals. We're in the same group playing against each other. So you can imagine that was a little bit tricky at times as well. But we had massive security. So we had special forces troops with us all the time. So as soon as we left our training at the hotel to go to the training ground, which is about half an hour away, we had a jeep full of special forces troops in front of us, a jeep behind us. Also another bus for the paras as well, and motorcycle escort. Unfortunately, we probably needed more security than that because our bus driver crashed the bus twice. So I mean, obviously, when you go to the training grounds, I mean, it wasn't his fault, Ryan. I mean, sometimes you miss a 50-foot scoreboard, don't you?
It can happen. Jed, I've watched quite a few of the games, and I was looking forward to seeing it because I wanted to ask you the style of play in the tournament seemed a bit disjointed to me. The pitches looked like they were playing on airports. The pitches looked absolutely enormous. I don't know if that was the camera angle or whatever. In terms of these players coming to Europe, but also the European players, as you've said, coming out of Europe into that environment, why such the sort of big change in style?
It's strange. I mean, this was part of our game plan. So when we assessed teams, we did the same as what I do back home. You assess a team, what they're like in possession, their build up and out of possession, and how the performance transitions. But also, there was other areas, and I'll tell you some. I won't tell all of them. There was other things we focused on as well. But some of that was what areas of possession was won and lost in as well. And we set traps for teams as well, and that came into fruition as well. But it seems to be it's a different style of play from Europe completely. You're spot on, Ryan. It's a really, really good observation. And we went into the tournament with this in a game plan, so we knew ourselves we wasn't allowed to lose the ball in certain areas of the pitch. That was our game plan structure. And also we knew that other teams probably would lose the ball in certain areas. So it was all built around that, and that was something that got us through a couple of the games. That was also part of the plan for the Morocco game, which never really came through, which I was a bit upset with. But it's a different ball game completely. And even players that are playing for their top clubs in Europe, when they go back to play the national team, they seem to not play in the same way they've done before, maybe overplay in certain areas, stuff like that. And that was something that we were really geared towards. And that was part of our game plan.
And were the pitches that big?
They were massive, yeah. The pitches were massive. Fantastic facility. I mean, the pitches were unbelievable. Stadiums were fantastic. Really good facilities. Nice. The staff working there were fantastic. The CAF, lots of friends from FIFA and CAF there as well. Obviously, there was the terrible incident there.
Yeah.
People got killed, and I was actually on the way to the game that night to go and watch that match as well, and I was stuck in a 4.5 hour traffic jam.
Wow. Even
though I was only 30 minutes from the stadium.
Yeah.
Wow. Going back a step, and obviously I suppose this is a scout for a national team. It sounds sort of like, oh well, you're not transferring any players, you just got the players you get, but I know there's a lot of competition in national teams for players who perhaps have a background of Malawi or a different a different country, and finding out who those players are, who maybe, we've seen Ben Brereton Diaz turn up and play for Chile, that type of story. So, I mean, I don't know whether you've had a chance to do anything.
I mean, obviously, where Mario, the coach, came as a technical director, came in, and then also sort of became the national coach. And Coach McKay sort of became his assistant or joint coach with him. And the squad wasn't really balanced. We were going into the tournament, and they hadn't won any games in the World Cup qualifiers. So the AFCON qualifiers was pre-COVID, so everything got put back another year. And in their form, from when they qualified, actually going into the tournament, the form was actually very poor. They hadn't scored a goal from 5 games. Wow. So we had to make it different. So we were scouting. So when I arrived there straight away, we was watching games. I went to the Malawi Cup final, which was a fantastic, unbelievable event to go and see a game with the top two there, and a massive crowd, absolute huge crowd at this game. And we actually was scouting players. We was actually still putting players together for the squad. But going forward, I mean, even they've sort of said there's quite a large Malawi community in the UK, and second and third generation as well.
Yeah, that's what I was sort of alluding to, Jed. How do they go about finding these people, or knowing this information? Because sometimes the information is not obvious, is it? If it's grandparents or whatever.
It's something I'd like to get involved with as well, because there's a lot of the FA board I was with that had all been educated in the UK, had come to the UK at some point in their careers, in their lives as well. So they knew the UK quite well. And I was asking them, is there a large community? It's not large, but there is a community there in the Midlands, the north of the country. There's 3 or 4 very hubs. And it's probably trying to tap into these areas and find, okay, because there probably is players there. And Tony, seriously, it'd be players that would be potentially National League players, even below that, even maybe step 2 and 3 of non-league football here. These guys would be an interest. There'd be an interest.
Yeah. You know, we actually did some work with the Zimbabwean FA against this, and we identified 30 kids within the academy system from 12 upwards that would have been eligible. You know, they were part of the diaspora, and yeah, you know, it is a reality of the multicultural 2nd, 3rd generation society that we have, and what a great opportunity
it would be
for those players as well.
Imagine that now. Imagine one of the agents on here now is working with a lad that's in what could be the Ryman's League or the Hispania.
Get in touch with Jeff. Do you know what? I mean, if there will be quite a lot of agents on here. Talk to your players, find out the parents, the grandparents, the background. I'm sure you'll have all done all this. Yeah. And if the Malawi, get in touch with Jed.
Yeah, no, seriously, because there's an opportunity. I mean, to be honest, we're talking about preparation for the tournament now.
Yeah.
And the Malawi league, again, it's a developing league. It's had issues. As a country, it's very poor. Coach education, I think, has been on pause for a number of years. I think it's about 6 years. Coach education has stopped now, so it's getting back and going now. And I did some workshops with the FA there, and we'll go back and do some more scout education there as well. But it does need development, and then if there was players playing in the UK or could be in Europe, even with that sort of heritage and background, it's an opportunity to get back here and play, and a great opportunity for the agents actually with the player. It's an opportunity for the player to get in the shop window.
Right. Brilliant. Ed, I think just oh, go on, sorry.
I was just going to ask about other scouts. There's a lot of scouts on the call, Jed. You know, this is a new experience for you. Would you recommend other scouts do this? You know, if they get
no. To be honest, for me, it was a great. It was hard work. It was 6 weeks away from home. I missed Christmas. I missed my own birthday. I missed New Year. I missed everything. It was a real. Also,
don't worry, nothing much happened, Jed. Don't worry.
Jed, your family have emailed in and said it's the best Christmas they've had in years.
The best one was, Brian, this is the funniest one was, I got with my family and my friends, we were on WhatsApp groups and so on, and when we was progressing, they said if we got through to the quarterfinals, they were coming.
They were coming, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Coming.
Wow.
And I was sort of joking. I was like, really? No, we've been checking the flights already. And I'm like, wow. So they said, oh, this is an opportunity. They wanted to be part of it. They really got into it, and that was a great thing. But yeah, I'd say from any scout that wants to get an opportunity to get something, I was very fortunate. I got the offer to go there. I took it with both hands. I knew it was something that I could bring to them. They've never had scouting, hasn't really existed in Malawi, and a lot of the nations there haven't really got into analysis, even actually putting the meetings together. Sort of putting on team meetings for the guys there, and even the goalkeepers. We was prepared for penalty shootouts, penalties in games, and so on like that. They've never had this before, so this was a real new opportunity for them, and they loved it. They really, really loved it.
Brilliant.
So Jed, just before we let Jed go, obviously Senegal qualified last night, and tonight it's Cameroon, Egypt. With all your scouting knowledge, who's going to win the tournament?
It's got to be Senegal, because obviously they couldn't beat us. So I'm putting all my edge in, all my bets on that one there as well. No, I mean it's Cameroon. There's a real buzz around the nation now. I said I was really fortunate. I think you've seen the photograph as well.
Yeah.
I was invited to Mr. Roger Miller's house. Our TLO, our team liaison officer, was a fantastic, unbelievable, my bestest friend in the world. I absolutely love the fellow there. I can say to him, I want to meet Roger Miller. I said, if we get to the last 16, I'll do that for you. good as his word, and that was it. So I was invited to Roger Miller's house. So and if the younger guys don't know who Roger Miller is, then you need to check
Google him, yeah. And did you do the dance when you met him?
I couldn't. That was too much, Ryan. I can't do it. But he actually had a mural of himself on his wall, and outside his house has got the mural of him in World Cup '90 with the kit on, and also he's actually got a mural of the stadium. Is it the Sao Paulo Stadium in Naples where they had all their games? That's even on the outside of the wall.
Brilliant. Same as Tony's house. Same as Tony. Tony's got his house.
Road.
Ed, absolutely fascinating insight. I know obviously you're back on home soil now.
Yeah.
Doing your scouting courses as well.
Yeah, workshops up and running again. I'm doing a workshop, and actually, in just on 10 minutes time, I'm actually doing a workshop. And I've got the recruitment workshops and also the tactical workshop, so which is exactly showing exactly what I did and the team did in Malawi. And if the guys want to learn how to do it, so it's different from recruitment. It's the opposition scouting analysis. We're doing that as well, and that's on next week. So I'll drop a link if anyone's interested in doing that.
Put a link in the chat, certainly, Jen. And obviously there'll be a course of how to scout as a national team scout, tournament scouting. There's a few more bits of knowledge.
Well, I've got to say to Ryan before I go, another time's ticking on. I said I didn't get any praise for this tournament, as well. I did mention this the other day. I said I thought we got through, first time in their history, through to the last 16, and I thought, wow, I'm going to get some praise here. Unfortunately, the kit man got the praise for doing it.
Rightly so.
Because on social media somewhere, a campaign started that they actually thought he was a witch doctor. So it was his special powers that come through that had actually took the team through to the next stage, and it was just that he couldn't believe it. It was unbelievable. And even he's been the kit man for 14 years, and no one's ever noticed him. And now he's a social media celebrity now.
Fantastic.
Jed, if you're not on the Malawian Strictly Come Dancing in the next 2 years, then I'm going to be writing a letter of complaint.
Yeah.
So, fascinating to hear that. Really appreciate it.
Brilliant stuff. Take care, mate. Thank you.
Tony, drawing towards the end, I think we've got one or two things just to finish off before we let people go.
What I was going to do, I was going to share the video. We've got a piece of work. I'm just looking for the video now. Hold on, Ryan. Excuse me. We're going to have a look at something that we've been doing with Steve Walsh. Steve, as many of you will know, is the sporting director who had successes, massive success at Leicester. He's now at I'm just trying to find the actual link to it. Just hold on a second. It should be there, but it ain't there.
Not to worry, Tony. We can send it out to people.
Yeah. So what we've been doing is we've sat down. Ryan's interviewed Steve over 2 days at a football club, and he's literally mined Steve Walsh for his knowledge, his experience in all sorts of aspects of how to do the sporting director job. And so Steve, he's told us, everything about how to do deals, how to negotiate transfer windows, how to negotiate. There's some really good stuff in there, and we're going to bring it out. It's going to be on Vimeo. It's going to be it's about 3 hours worth of conversations, and really anybody who's in scouting looking, or in education looking to get into football, the FTF expert sporting director with Steve Walsh will be an absolute must for them, and that'll be out very soon, won't it, Ryan?
Yeah, very soon. Yeah. Brilliant. Well, I've really enjoyed this morning. I think 2 great guests, really some really interesting thoughts and experience there. I hope everybody listening has enjoyed it as well. We've had loads on the webinar this morning, which we are really thankful of, and we'll be back again at the start of next month, Tony.
Yeah, so it's the first Thursday in every month. You should get reminders now you've registered with us. We'll have some more guests from the football industry, the football world. I'm particularly keen to sort of, as soon as the January window is finished, it's like now time to focus on the summer window, which obviously is a bigger window. So we'll be doing that in March for sure. Good luck in the African Nations Cup. Hopefully Jed's tips Senegal comes good. And also we'll be what we are talking about now is our next football transfer forum. So I think we're going to go back to Manchester City. It's going to be towards the back end of April, but I'll send the guys out all the details on that when it's all organized. But yeah, thanks for that, Ryan. I thought Joe was fantastic.
Yeah, really good. Really good.
We do wish Derby really well. And Jed and his experiences just back from the African Nations Cup was absolutely fascinating.
So I hope everybody has a fantastic rest of their day and week. Good luck this weekend if you're involved in a game. And we will see you very soon. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. Cheers.